very, very pleasant Thanksgiving. And here we are down at Cannes Studio for another exciting episode of ABATE TV. And the mission of ABATE of Illinois is to preserve the universal right to a safe, unrestricted motorcycling environment and to propose and advocate actions that can be taken by elected and appointed officials to protect and conserve the natural resources of the state of Illinois, and ensure through professional management that sustainable use, recreational opportunities, and enjoyment of these resources is available for this and future generations. To fulfill this mission, we will safeguard the rights of all motorcyclists, endorse safety programs and education programs, promote unity through involvement, advocate political awareness and activism, and promote motorcycling enjoyment. Which, speaking of motorcycling enjoyment, guess what's coming up this weekend? What's coming up this weekend? Sunday, December 3rd, Toys for Tots. So it should be an exciting weekend, and they're still taking donations for toys. And there are going to be a lot of events, and it's going to be all along Western Avenue. So if you have anything to do on the east side and you're on the west side, get it done early or wait until the end of the day. Last year we had snow, and it was a great run, but fortunately the snow held off until everybody had pulled into the high school, and people went to various different locations. And we're looking forward to seeing as many riders as possible, and hopefully this nice weather will stay with us through Sunday. God knows how often it can happen where you get a boatload of snow, and it makes it dangerous for everyone. But it's always a good time, and there are always plenty of watering holes that are open up afterwards, and you can run into friends. And just remember that Toys for Tots is for a really, really good cause. We want to be sure that every child has a toy for Christmas. And a number of the police associations that I belong to are also taking up collections for Toys for Tots. And so they let all of the members know. So they get these big truckloads of toys, and they distribute them to the kids. And there's always a smile on everyone's face. Feel free to call in if you have any questions about what's going on. Pat's minding the phones tonight, so you might want to talk to our cheerful president. Hi, Pat.
Good, Diane. You're doing good.
Are you minding the phones well?
Keep your clothes on.
Trust me. They give me beads to keep my clothes on. Anyways, we're looking forward to Sunday, and last year I volunteered. I was over by the school, over by the high school, and just kept seeing people coming in, and there were raffles and things like that at the end point. But people are going to be starting from different locations. Different motorcycle riding groups are going to be starting on the all along the parade route. So find out where the people that you're going to be riding with are meeting up. A lot of them meet for breakfast, and then kickstands up whenever they get on the road, and just follow the train all the way north from the south side. I was at Morgan Park High School as Director of Safety and Education last week, and there's one more date we haven't set yet. If anybody wants to volunteer and lives on the south side, Morgan Park High School is located at 1744 West Pryor. There's parking on premises. The teachers love having us come in, and it's always really a great amount of interest. And a number of the kids are going to be learning how to ride motorcycles, and they like hearing stories from the road. People who are motorcyclists and stories that they tell. These are young riders. Most of them have been behind the wheel of a car, but they haven't been on the range yet. So they're waiting to get their blue cards, and they're taking the classroom courses. And what we try to do in the classroom is to find out at which point in the curriculum the driver's education class is, so that we can reinforce all of the things that they're studying in the classroom. And a lot of it, rules of the road. This is an older, um, rules of the road, but, let me put it on the overhead. Zoom it in a little bit so you can see. This is an older one, but, oh, this thing doesn't work for me. And go over what's in the rules of the road. They usually have an updated one that we can deal with in the classroom and talk about the various issues. But most importantly, to get people calm and comfortable behind the wheel of the car so that when they're driving in the street, they're comfortable and they're paying attention and they're looking out for motorcycles as well as other vehicles. So, in case any of you haven't seen an Illinois motorcycle manual in a while, they have updated them, and there are actually bicycle rules of the road too. You can tell your friends who have children that are riding bicycles on the street how to look out for vehicles as well, because there are a lot of bicyclists out there, and we go over things to look out for in the classroom, and bicyclists are one of the things to look out for, trucks, cars, and there's something that we never had to deal with when we were young, something called speed cameras and red light cameras and things like that, and we discuss what the fines, fees, and penalties are for if you break what they call a scoff law, because you're not going to go to jail for getting a red light camera ticket and not paying it, but the fine will accumulate, and we discuss all sorts of things like that that most of us as adults who drive on a regular basis know about, but they don't really understand the ramifications of getting arrested for a DUI, and we go over the cost of getting insurance and all kinds of things like that, because say for example, the child wants to learn how to ride a motorcycle. We go over what needs to be done. You first have to get your D classification, then and only then can you get your M classification, and talk about what can happen if you ride a motorcycle on the street without the M classification. And the kids really had never even thought about asking questions like that. And we go over the cost of insurance. That's something very important that a lot of parents out there may or may not even talk about with their kids. But the cost of insurance, if you keep your grades high, and how it can affect the cost of your insurance and bring down the cost. A lot of these kids, they just think, oh, I'm going to get behind the wheel of the car and I'm going to drive. But we disabuse them rather quickly of that notion and talk about all kinds of things that can happen in various scenarios and show a great little presentation. It's a 7-minute video that's especially for students in the classroom, for high school driver's education students, and talk about what you should be wearing, how to operate a motorcycle, how to look out for other people, because driving a vehicle when you're a new driver is a little bit scary. I remember thinking when I first got behind the wheel of a car, I said, oh my gosh, am I ever going to be able to drive a car without my hands tightly clenched to the wheel? Time and practice, time and practice, time and practice. And the kids want to learn. They want to know. And Pat and I and other people have done the classes together, and we always have a great time playing off the kids. And if any of you know of schools that would be interested possibly in having a driver's education program, our ABATE program come into driver's ed, I should say, let us know. Because maybe there's schools that we haven't contacted. Because we do stay in contact with a number of schools, but with the way the funding has been with the state of Illinois, it's been kind of limited, and they haven't even had the the Chicago Police Officer Safety come in, because the curriculum has been kind of crunched to, I guess, cost less. But it's so important to be sure that when these kids, who will eventually be drivers on the road, sharing the road with us, know the rules of the road, how to obey them, look before changing lanes, being careful before you change lanes, all kinds of things like that that we as longtime drivers already know, hopefully, and we're very attentive. And we talk about, speaking of attentive, distracted driving, and talk about scenarios that can occur. Like there's one example that we use of Anita Zafke, who got run over by a motorist who was driving a van and was polishing her nails. Speaking of horrible things you shouldn't be doing behind the wheel of a car. But there are other examples that we use in the classroom, like the young man up in Rolling Meadows who was driving in traffic and got impatient, and his best friend was in the front seat, and he made a quick U-turn without looking to see if the oncoming traffic, or if there was any oncoming traffic, if it had stopped, and because he didn't look, a vehicle came from the opposite direction and slammed into the passenger side of the car, where the young man's best friend was killed immediately. It was fortunately instantly, because he probably would have been a vegetable for the rest of his life. But it's little things like that, anecdotes that we bring to the classroom, that you can bring to the classroom as well. Some of your own personal experiences on the road as a motorcyclist. Please volunteer. If you have any problems, if you're shy, if you're insecure, not a problem. Come, watch how we do the presentation, and participate as you feel comfortable. There's no urgency. It's just feeling part of the community of ABATE, that we're all part of Constellation. We're all important. But of course, our president and our vice president and our legislative people, we do our best to keep you apprised of what's going on, to be sure that your rights are being protected. And remember, we're a political organization, beside being a friendship organization. We're not a club, we're a lobbying organization. So you can belong to any motorcycle club you want and still be a member of ABATE, and you're not a member of another club. Because I know some organizations, some motorcycle clubs, don't let you be a member of another club beside the club that you belong to. But ABATE is a lobbying organization, and we are in Washington and Springfield to preserve and protect the rights of every motorcyclist on the road. Because you all know, and we know, how these people can try and sneak through legislation that impacts motorcyclists more than anybody else, and that's not right, that's not fair. Whether it's noise, or keeping motorcycles off Lakeshore Drive, or restricting any kind of privileges that all drivers should have from motorcyclists. We look out for you, and we will keep you apprised of any legislation that will directly impact you. And if we ask you to please contact your legislator on behalf of legislation that we support or don't support, get on the phone and call them. Get on the email, if an email has been provided, to let them know. It is all too easy to have your rights taken away before you even know it. And once they've been taken away, getting them back might take years, if at all. Because these people count on the fact that you're not paying attention. And this is why ABATE exists. Because we don't want any group, especially motorcyclists, to be taken advantage of unfairly by government. Whether it's anything that impacts motorcyclists, I won't even go into a litany of things, but we have people down in Springfield and Washington keeping an eye out for you. Now, we've got an election coming up next year, and ABATE will, as I've mentioned before, be supporting certain candidates that we're going to let you know who they are as soon as the board in Springfield decides who they will be. The candidate, there are a lot of
Friendly candidates.
Oh, absolutely motorcycle-friendly candidates. Forgive me for not mentioning that. Because we have some motorcycle-unfriendly candidates that we're not going to go into too many details on. But there are candidates out there now getting petitions signed to run for a bunch of different offices around the state. We've got candidates out circulating petitions in Cook County, both Democrat and Republican. And ABATE doesn't differentiate. ABATE is neither Democrat nor Republican. ABATE will support the candidates who support motorcycles. And yeah, we're single-issue voters on certain things. But usually, when they're motorcycle-friendly candidates, they're good on a lot of other issues as well. And I'm trying to think about, there are various counties, right, there's certain elections, these are the midterm elections, and there are certain senators that are running, and certain state representatives who are running, they alternate, so you don't have the whole group of people being replaced at the same time. If, say, for example, all of the candidates, all of the senators, and all of the state representatives are running at the same time, it would be very chaotic if there weren't people that were still in office that are following what's going on. You understand what I mean. So here in Illinois, we're going to have candidates being challenged. We're going to have candidates running for a lot of different positions, and they will be interviewed by ABATE, and they will be questioned directly on certain issues, especially motorcycles. And on that basis, they will be endorsed or not endorsed. And certain candidates who are currently in office now will be graded. And to let people know how they vote on motorcycle issues. And many of them will be graded on by different organizations for different issues. Second Amendment and various issues like that. So you want to see who is going to look out for you. Let's be selfish. There are enough legislators in office that keep writing laws and laws and laws and laws. And I think probably one of the best quotes, and let me see if I've got this right, 2,000 years ago or more, Tacitus said, the more corrupt the government, the more it legislates. And we like cutting to the quick. We want a government that looks out for the people, for the people's interests. But again, it comes right back to motorcycle issues. If you don't respect the rights of motorcyclists and keep putting more and more financial burdens on motorcycle owners, whether it be for the cost of tags, licensing, all sorts of issues that are related to even vehicle ownership in general. We want people that are going to look out for the people, not their own private interests. And that's unfortunately what can and does happen with a lot of these people. They stay in office for too long, they've forgotten that they're public servants, and having run for public office myself, I try to keep in mind the benefits of the most amount of people. A politician, an elected official, should be secondary to what his or her voters elected him or her to do. And when you have not obeyed your oath of office, it's the duty of the electorate to vote you out of office, no matter what. Because you cannot get too entrenched, you cannot get too comfortable, you cannot go into politics as a pauper and come out as a 1%er. That's unconscionable. So we hold all of these politicians' feet to the fire. We ask them the tough questions. We want to know where they stand. We demand to know where they stand. And we will force their hand, if they're elected, to do what they said that they were going to do if they were elected. A lot of people, they make campaign promises, and they don't honor them. And sometimes you have to get the videotape to show them what they said and compare it to what they're doing. Because I think that for some of these people, amnesia is pretty rampant. And that's unfortunate. Because public service is public service, and you were elected to serve the public. When you've forgotten your oath of office, again, it's time to show them the gate, but you have to get people out to vote. And unfortunately, a lot of people who have important issues, they don't get out and vote. I don't know, Pat, I'm trying to remember what the percentage was of people who voted in the November election. People who actually get out and vote.
People came out to vote, and 3 of them voted for you.
That's not what I'm talking about, the percentage of people that have voted in last year's election. It's depressing. Here in Chicago,
I recall it was like 40%, if that.
If that. And that's absolutely inexcusable. Even though, like Australia, we don't have... I started to say, in Australia, they require you to vote. You must vote. If you don't vote, you can get fined. Here, we like to go on the honor system. But if you're apathetic or you don't care either way, sometimes it's a matter of just getting in there and voting for the person you like the least, but not voting. We find that rather unacceptable because as a citizen, whether you like politics or not, you are still affected by the politicians that make those decisions. How else did Richard Daley raise Meigs Field? How else did the alderman and Daley collude to basically give away our parking meters, the Skyway, buy Michael Reese Hospital? We own Michael Reese Hospital still. We paid the fine that Daley was charged by illegally raising R-A-Z-I-N-G, tearing up Meigs Field. Why aren't we seizing these people's pensions to collect damages that they did to us, the body politic, who elected them to represent us, and they betrayed us, cost us money that we're still paying for, we're still in deficit. Because people don't get out there and vote. They don't vote. They just accept the status quo and say, oh, you can't fight City Hall. That attitude will keep the same people that we have in office, in power over us. Give the underdog a chance. Vote for real change. To disgorge the entrenched politicians. If we all work hard enough, we can do it. Because Chicago is failing financially. Yet the people in charge, they keep getting these fabulous salaries that we're paying for. Not one of them has said, I'll give back 10% of my salary to the people to help pay down the costs. No, they fight over the scraps among themselves. And they don't even always do what they said they were going to do to benefit the people, whether it's an alderman or a state representative or a senator, any legislator. So
That means wrap it up, Diane.
it means wrap it up, Pat. It means that ABATE is out there looking out for you. We're going to help get politicians elected that will benefit us. Yes, let's be selfish. And if anybody says to you we're not going out to vote, you drag them to the polling place and you get them in there and you say, vote. It's your right. This is your right that you cannot give up. Do not cede, do not give up, do not fade, do not anything. Pat, just wait till you see what you get in your Christmas stocking.
Say goodnight, Diane.
Say goodnight, Gracie. Good night, everyone. We're going to see you down the road. Make sure you attend all of the meetings, and don't forget Toys for Tots on Sunday. We hope to see you all out there. Be safe.